Hello everyone, and welcome to week 2 of Introduction to Java Programming. So what I did is I posted a lecture out on the Blackboard on PowerPoint, kind of explaining the things that we're going to learn this week, which is basically variables, the different types of variables. We kind of touched bases on it a little bit in class last week, but today I'm going to set up a few different videos to kind of get you started. As you see here on the screen, I already have this already set up with variables. So I already have everything up and running. So I've already created I came in and created a new project. And then after I created the project, I created a class. So as far as a package, you could have the default package. You could always rename that. But in this case, it's just variable static. So as you see here, this is our starting point. This is our main class, and this is the main part of the class. So think of it as when the program starts up, this is where it's going to start, and it's going to say, hey, what do you want me to do now? I'm sitting here, you tell me. So in this example, what we're going to do is we're going to set up a class called public static. Well, let's call it a method. So we're going to set up a method called public static void. We'll call it calculate. In this case, we don't want to pass any parameters. So you just want to make sure that when you do it, you do an open and close parentheses, and then you do your open and close brackets right here. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and set up examples of different variable types with lower and uppercase. Now, the key thing is when working with variable types, it's case sensitive. So for example, let's say that we want to set up a string. Okay, and a string is, like we mentioned last week, it's just basically a name. So let's say that we wanted to do string name, and then we have to end it. As you notice here, it has a little bit of a red line. It says can't be resolved, because what that means is Java doesn't know what that is. It's like, what is this? Why are you creating this? Only way that would work is, as if you remember in our first week discussion, we talked about DLLs. If we set up our own dynamic library and specify a list of our own variable types, well, guess what? Once that's declared, and then we have an import piece up here, say we had it called import something up here, okay? What would happen is, even though that's nothing, it would pick up the string because it would notice the library and say, oh, okay, I know what that is. But in this case, we're using Java slang. So what we want to do is we want to use uppercase string. So as you see here, we have string name. Another thing is, if you click on the yellow part of it, it says the value of the local variable is not used. So it notices that we declared it, but it doesn't know that we actually have used it. So in this case, we could do a couple different things. We could do name equals Neil Walker. Excuse me, and we do that. Now that works that way. The value of local variable is not used, but it is used because you see here name equals Neil Walker. That's one way of doing it. Another way is we could just say, we don't want that. We could do equals Neil Walker. As you see here, now we declared our string and we called it Neil Walker. Now, you notice here that end part right there, you notice it's unresolved. When working with Java, C#, and some other programs, you have to use a semicolon or the program will not work. So in this case, it works fine. So let's say that we wanted to print that. So we did this in class, and right now we're not getting into the swing aspect of it. We're just kind of getting into just the feel of how to write stuff, and that's why it's nice to use the console to do some testing here. So in this case, we're going to type in system.out.print. Oops, come on, pick me up. And we're going to put the variable there. So the variable is name in this example. So what we're doing here, we're saying string name equals Neil Walker. We want to print it to the screen, and we want to use that variable name. Has anyone seen what we did wrong here yet? I ran it, but it didn't work. Ah, this is what we forgot to do. We forgot to declare the method. So the method is calling calculate in this sense. So we want to choose calculate as our method. This is our method that gets called to do something. So in this example here, it calls this method, and once it calls the method, it says, what do you want me to do? So we could do so many different things with that. So let's hit run. Guess what? It says Neil Walker right here. We could even say, hello, no walker. See? All right. So let's add some other stuff to this. Let's make this a little bit more information. So other things that we want to talk about is we want to talk about other. There's so many different variables. So we've learned that integers basically within our lecture this week. We learned about whole numbers. It's not decimal numbers. So we've learned that integers are whole numbers. So let's say that we wanted to declare an integer. Can we do int my number equals 2.2? Now, see, if you click on this right here, it's a mismatch. It says you need to convert it to a double, to an int. So it knows that, hey, this is not right. But if we did 23, works fine. So if we did 18, which is Neil Walker's number, is 18. Now what we could do is we could do something like this. We could just come down here and say system.print line, and we could say my number. Pretty simple. So if we run this, it displays hello Neil Walker and the number that he is. Now we could get really creative with this. We could say, all right, we want to set up a new string. We want to call it, this would be like consolidating information. So let's say that we wanted to discuss how to add the different strings, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next video. But right now, let's say that hypothetically we wanted to add Neil Walker. Let's see here. We go up here and say string message equals name plus my number. Now you'll notice something when we do this. Oops, can't get that. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're just going to comment this out because we want this to display. When you comment it out, we could do so now we're just going to display that. Oops. All right, hello everyone. Welcome back. Now this video right here, we're going to next video rundown. What I did is I posted a lecture out on the Black. What we want to do is consolidate space variable. Kind of explain. We talked about that a little bit in the last video with Neil Walker. Basically variables, different types of variables. Talk more about that in Neil Walker here a little bit. So in this case right here, we need a new class. Neil Walker, we will set up a few different videos to kind of get you started. As you see here on the screen, call it. I already have this already set up. Consolidate variables. Now, I already have everything running, so I've already created my new, because this is came in and created a new project. So right there is an example project. Other variables. Now let's say that we wanted to use our package. Right there, have a nice how we can rename that because in this case it's just a variable stat method. As you see here, this is our starting point. Because our main class, and this is our main row. Here's what we're going to do here. Is when the program starts up, this is where we're going to start. And the method was like, you want me to do now? So in this example, what we're going to do is we're going to display that value. I just remember this will be money. Public static execute it. It's called a method. We're set up a method called public static void. So this is just a kind of example of some of the things that you. In this case, we don't want to pass any practice. So you just want to make sure that when you do it open as a double close and then you do your open string and put accepting two numbers should be passed. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get ahead and set up. In this case, we have examples of different variables. We could do lower uppercase. Nope. The key thing is when we said working with a variable type is case sensitive. So let's, for example, let's say that we want to compare idea that you're doing. Now, string is like all that string. The last is basically a name. So let's say that we get char. String very much a name. We do char, and then we have to end it. As you notice here, as you get a little bit of a red line, we have that because. The next thing what that means is Java doesn't know what that is. That's like, what is reading? Now you notice here, why are you creating reading? Only way that would work is as if you remember in our first discussion, I'll show this. Talking about it's expecting we set up our own dynamic library. So right here, specify a list of our own variable type string. But once that's declared, and then we have an import. Say we had it called import. We might use something. We might use a char. Or also what would happen is even though that's not right now, pick up the string. database notice basically. You'll see library and say, oh, okay, I know what database is. Anybody. But in this case, we're using so we're going to do here. What we want to do is we want to use a find position. So let's say that, for example, you see here we have string name. Another thing is if you click on the yellow part of it, basically the local variable that will work there. So you'll notice is that we mixed up declared it. Let's say that another way that we actually have used. We know that. So in this case, we could do a couple different things. Using a char value equals, you could define the specific length of that data structure, and we do that. So for example, if you declare that works, so in this case, you see here, you say that when you go to run your code, it's going to show this. Another way is we could just, even though only 3 are being used, we could do. That's the interesting about that. It's good. We have grid. You see here, now we're going to do. If you know that specific, you notice here values never that end part right there. Never go like that. You know, that is my session for working with Java. Would say the program we use semi-colon more really the program will see the next plus. So in this case, it works fine. So let's say that we wanted to print that. So we did this in class, and right now we're not getting into the swing aspect of it. We're kind of getting into now we're going to do the fill of how the right stuff. And that's why it's nice to use Java. So we'll do some testing here. So in this case, we're going to utilize system.out.print birding. Come on, pick me up. All right. So, and we're going to go in this case right here. We're setting up a variable there. So what we're going to do reading plus first thing. So what we're doing here, we're saying not worried about this right now. String name equals name. So we're going to do converting. We want to print to the string. So let's start out. And this is something I didn't show. You know how like before I didn't even see what we did wrong here yet. And then I ran it, but it didn't work. And then if you want to do S3, forgot to do. We forgot to crazy. It looks like too much code. The method. But one of the things you could do is put it all in one line. And now down here, which is nice about the string. So we want you to choose calculate as our method. This is our. Look at that. You declared your string in this one line, and this saves a lot of room for coding. So that's what we'll do. What's nice is now we'll declare a number file. So in this example here, it calls this method, and once it calls the method, coming out like these are some of the examples that you've seen. So we can do so many different things with this. You do double D run. Because guess what? 2, 3, 4. As you see here, we declared two different people. We do S1. We declared integer, a greeting name, hi from, string. And then we consolidate when I'm typing this. So now we're just bringing up into this. I can do this. I can do whatever you want me to do. So other things that we want to string and then up the number in there. So we want to talk about other. There's so many different variables. So we've learned integers basically within the S1. We learned about whole numbers, string, decimal. Let's convert it to in that case. So we've learned that another thing is no error message, whole number. So didn't know let's say that we did anything wrong. Hey, you didn't put anything there, so I did everything I wanted to do. We're taking a double by my number. Making a string. Hello, Mike equals. Hello from Mike Thomas. See, if we want to work, it needs a space here. If you click on this, so what we want to do is come up to our greeting mismatch. Add a space. You need to convert it to a double. Rerun it. So we know that it is, but now right. Like if we did together, so we need to do the same thing from him. We have two different ways that we could do it. We could go up if we did 18, which is Neil Walker's number. We're going to call it S and just add space D1. Now, what we could do is we could do something like this. We could just say that we wanted to do. Let's fine, and we could say my number. We can add an empty space in there. You know what? Let's just get rid of these guys. And it does the same thing. So there's we run this. So we have this. But in this case, that's kind of how you add different strings together. And we can get really creative. Let's say that we wanted to add numbers. All right, we want to set up a new string. So let's kind of race all this up. Say we this would be like consolidating information. So let's say that we did discuss 2 equals 2. How to add. So now we want to add them together. Strings, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next video. But right now, let's say that hypothetically we wanted to add, in this case, no Walker. We want to use a string. We go up here and say string my numbers. Message equals name 1 plus number my number, and so forth. So just an example. We'll talk about how to add other lines. There's the problem. Look at that. I want to change some lines. You could, you could do this way. What we're going to do here is we're going to comment this out. So as you noticed before, when we did comment out, we'll add them together. But in this case, it's like, hey, you're trying to add these together, but you're trying to do a string, so you have to convert it, but we'll talk about that in the next way. For right now, what we're going to do is we're going to add these two together. All right, so we're just going to display that message. You're add, multiply, and so forth. So let's say we took another one in Walker, but it has 18. What we want to do is
value.
we want to put a space in between that. So let's come up here and say
in this method
main and not give it anything.
Well,
now we could declare
main
one
equals
0 here. Hello, no walker.
Important to start again.
That's
You
still
want
no integer numbers, and you're
it doesn't know that it's
no walker.
It's only that method. So for
Started
example,
at 0.
if I do S2,
so that way it doesn't get confused. So in this case, we could say
1, 2, 3.
Main
and
equals
then ended here.
number 1 is.
You notice
say times.
we run it's fine. Because we have it in a different method. If I declare
we want to put
2 up here again,
so right there is
say, you know what?
Example
say
of
for
some of
example,
the other
this.
variable types. Now let's say we wanted to use a double. We wanted to say average.
Duplicate local variables.
Well, multiply double.
In this case,
change our values. Let's make it.
This is a new method, and I'm just doing a new.
So now we're going to do a
declaration
on that.
So
look at the number.
We'll set it I equals.
So
integer, which
we want another double
money
to
declare
$3.94. So we need a minute. Same thing here. We want to display that value. Call it money.
Double D.
Greeting. We then execute it. So it displays
all
3.94 down here.
Then we'll come down here.
So
and
this
say,
is just a kind of example of some of the things that you can do. This is good practice.
Parse.
You could do a float. We talked about
Everyone
float.
knows what parsing
It
is.
could be used as a double as well. We'll call
being
it
able to take information. I'll tell you about it in a second. So let's say, for example, we have a problem here.
So in this case, we have an S1.
So let's say, for example, you are scraping a website. So a lot of things, what happens within search engine optimization marketing, companies usually compete against other companies with AdWords keywords. Very popular. That's kind of where Google makes probably, I don't know, 70% of their money. So based off of people advertising on their internet, certain keywords could
add these two together. I didn't have to do that.
Generate 20.
I could have created another string.
For $50,000 a day. It's just amazing the business that they're utilizing that with. But kind of what I'm getting at is, if Google was doing a screen scrape on a competitor's website, such as Yahoo,
so there's so many different ways
Bing, I think it is, and other things. They could do a search, and then what you do is they could get the HTML in the site, and kind of scrape it and copy all the HTML, and you throw it into a database. Well, the thing is, once it's thrown into a database, it's just a bunch of HTML code in it. It's meaningless. But what we'll do is we'll go through and find certain key points. Let's say that they're looking for keywords of so many different things. Keywords of computer science or something along that line. What we'll do is we'll take that information and parse it into a database. So it'll say, okay, keywords used on September 8, 2015, and it'll just parse that information, and it's kind of what's happening here. You're parsing the information. So in this case, we're going to parse data structure screen.
So for example,
the other thing that we're going to do is
that means it's going to expect 4 spaces. If the value is 3 spaces, that's okay. When you go to run your code, it's going to show 4 spaces, even though only 3 are being utilized. So that's the interesting about that. It's a good data structure type to use if you know that the specific value is never going to change, and then I would go with that. So today that is my setup on this, and I'll post this code to the examples folder on our
other thing you could do is
see you in the next video.
Which gets annoying, and you just do this, multiply it. You just do I
by 2.
Run it. But right now it's going to call.
So what we could do here is we could say, let's take, we need another value here, so we need another integer. So we're going to say int main equals week 1 salary times multiple versions. And then if we do a system.out, oh, we got a bunch of exceptions. That's awesome. All right, did I put the right one? String 2 equals, okay, main. Doesn't like something because I have to convert it, I bet. So it blew up somewhere. It didn't like something that we'll get into this one next. I don't want to talk about it right now, but see, it's not going to allow me to do it because I have to convert it, and that's okay. But we'll talk about that in the next thing. But if we wanted to say we wanted to use another double, that's right. And we wanted to add them together. That's too real quick. Oh, hold on. Let's do real quick. Didn't like that either. All right, Alright, so we were having these problems here. So what I did is I took the I out. So what we could do is I tested it with this thing right here at X. So when I do that, that works. So what we want to do here is take. Alright, here's the error message. I already have I not convert from double to int. I declare. See, I'm saying okay, double, but I'm saying give it a double. So what we need to do is declare that to a double, 2, and that should fix it. And there's your number. So we could add something to it as well. We could say, you know what, we want to have a $sign in front of that. So what we could do is we could put, all right, so now it works. See, the thing is, when I put the decimal in there, right, it doesn't like it. You can't do that. That's it. So that right there is basically lesson number 2 of adding stuff together. It's like kind of gives you an example. Once again, I'll get something else. This is how on the because by doing that, it makes you think that it's either a double, if you have any other questions, or something else, or a float, or whatever the case is. So it gets confused. So in that case, that's kind of what you have to do with this. So this right here was just a little explanation on different ways that you could do conversions. In the book, it has different information as well. I could post other additional information, but this is kind of the end of this video, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.